right, so I'm going to go ahead as people are still just kind of joining and welcome you all. As if you're just now coming in, please note at the bottom of your screen, if you're interested in closed caption, those options are available. I'm Pam Bryant, and I'm the president of Symphony NC and a member of ArtPride's Marketers Leadership Team. I'm honored to be your host for today. I'm a middle-aged white female with brown hair and brown glasses, wearing a red, black, and white sweater. And I'm coming to you today from my home in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, the ancestral homeland of the Lenni Lenape people. Just a quick overview of what we'll be covering. If you can see Samantha Bryant on the screen, we're very excited to have her with us. She'll be talking about Google Analytics 4, what you need to be successful. And she's from MogoARTS, and she is joining us from California today, which is super exciting. She'll be discussing today's main topic regarding Google's transition from Universal to Analytics 4. We'll also be joined later by the webinar by Tanisha Ford from ArtPride, New Jersey, to hear about current and upcoming arts marketing plans in the field. All right, some housekeeping details. Again, if you're just joining, those closed captioning button is available for you at the bottom. And we'll ask you to be also, besides your greetings, good to see people, joining us and greeting us in the chat. We'll ask you to drop your questions into the chat as Samantha is going over her presentation, and we'll address them at the end of the presentation. Just keep your eye on the chat, because there may be links and resources that are going to be dropped in there as well. Just know that we are recording today's webinar, and that video will be shared along with the slide deck in case you want to go back and reference anything or share anything with colleagues that might not have been able to make it today. So I think we've got a good start for our morning here, and I'd like to introduce Samantha Bryant from MogoARTS. And Samantha, I am going to go off camera and turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm just going to, you guys will see my speaker notes for 1 second while I get this in presentation mode. Present. Just want to make sure, can you see the speaker notes slide, or can you guys see the presentation slide? Can someone tell me?
Presentation, we're good.
Presentation? Okay, I am actually, yeah, okay, that's good. Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Samantha Bryant. My pronouns are she, her. I am a white woman in my 30s with light brown hair and wearing glasses. I'm the managing director of MogoARTS Marketing, and we're based in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm coming to you from San Francisco, California, and I would like to acknowledge that this meeting is being held on the traditional lands of the Ramaytush Ohlone, and I pay respects to my elders past and present. I'm really excited to get into the basics of Google Analytics 4 today, and I also want to preface what we're going to go over is approaching Google Analytics from a marketing perspective on a high level. You may have a lot of questions as you listen to today's presentation that will be really specific to your business use case or how you track conversions or activity or what's important to your business. I highly encourage you have conversations with your web dev team and or your marketing team, or if you have a marketing agency that you work with, to implement and talk about the specifics that you may have. But we'll have time for some questions at the end. And also I think Tanisha will share out my contact information if you want to have a conversation with me directly. So here's what we're going to go over today. We're going to talk about why Google is deprecating Universal Analytics, what are the changes that are coming with Google Analytics 4, and then how you can use Google Analytics 4 to your advantage at your organization. So we'll get right into it. Why is Universal Analytics going away and when? So in 2020, Google announced the deprecation of the third-party cookie. That's currently slated for 2024. Thus, Universal Analytics, which is actually primarily a cookie-based platform, must comply with new privacy standards. Those are standards such as the California Consumer Privacy Protection Act, CCPA, or General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR. So Google's solution was to completely rebuild Universal Analytics from the ground up to address these privacy standards and do non-cookie based reporting. So when is it going away? Actually, when Tanisha first reached out to me, the date that Universal Analytics was deprecating has actually changed since then. This is how frequently Google is shifting and addressing the needs of its users. The cookie was originally supposed to be going away in 2022, then it went to 2023, now it's 2024. So similar story with Universal Analytics. So earlier this year, they had announced that UA would be deprecated on July 1st, 2023. Since that rollout has been happening over time, I'm sure some of you have already started the process. Google is learning that it's taking a lot of time and resources for users to customize their setup and to get everything properly implemented. So they have responded to the feedback from its users and have delayed this just 1 year later to July 1st, 2024. So we have some time, which is good, but I don't want anyone to think, okay, I can kick back. Like, there's actually a lot of advantage to getting started now, and we'll get into the reasons why in just a bit. All right, so what is changing with Google Analytics 4? But something to keep in mind is GA4 isn't just a rebrand or a facelift of an old platform. Google actually rebuilt analytics from the ground up. So while there are some things that are just updates to existing features that you had with UA, there's a lot of new stuff that you weren't able to do before that you were able to implement with GA4. So first things first, we just discussed the sunset date of Universal Analytics. It's important to know nothing will be deleted, and all your original views, everything will still be accessible until that sunset date of 2024, or likely I could see them pushing it again. That seems to be Google's MO these days. But you still will have access to all historical references or reporting until that date. So that's just a good level setting here that it's actually really encouraged to set them up simultaneously and have them running while you transition and move all of your reporting and features to the new GA4. So one other point in that is Google Analytics 4 is not retroactive. So the point in which you implement it, it is a going forward reporting date. So for your really best year-over-year reporting, we really recommend that you get it going and have your report set up and your events tracking prior to when it's really going to matter for you. So prior to the start of a new season or a new fiscal year. I think given it's November now, like getting started and playing with it today will be in your advantage when it's time to, when you really want to have that year-over-year reporting beginning. But think of it this way. So Universal Analytics will stop collecting data in 2024. If you start today with GA4, by that deprecation date, you could have nearly 2 years worth of data and insights collecting in GA4. This is going to be really critical for you to be having data to inform any, business decisions that you want to make and/or, being prepared for the cookieless world as well for other reporting KPIs. Really benchmark yourselves and set yourselves up for success going forward. Another immediate change to Google Analytics 4 is to the structure. So currently Universal Analytics, the account is set up with 3 elements that you might be familiar with. You have your account, and then you have a property, and then you have views, and you can have multiple views and multiple properties. Google Analytics 4 only contains 2, just account and property. So that means there are no views in GA4. But within your dashboard on your home screen of GA4, this is where you'll set up different reports and different elements that you want to track, and that will serve, as what was formerly known as views, but you'll be accessing it in a different form within your property on your home. More exciting, and what was not available to this degree in Universal Analytics is integration. So Google Analytics 4 comes with more direct integrations to Google-owned media products. If you're familiar with any of these acronyms, I'll spell them out for you. DV360 is Display and Video 360, Search Ads 360, and CM is Campaign Manager 360. These are all part of the Google Marketing Platform. You may or may not use these yourselves, or maybe you have a third-party marketing agency or media buyer that you work with that does use these licenses. This is a really cool and important integration that you can tap into with GA4, which will allow marketers to bid against and target the conversion activity and audiences within DV360's platform. So for example, MogoARTS, we use DV360 for media buying for display. And if we plug into a client's GA4, then we're able to tap into the data that's flowing through GA4 that we don't have available from the third-party targeting that you have in DV360. This will be much more important, especially once the cookie goes away, in terms of activity that we're able to target against and use to our advantage for our campaigns. And that will be much more efficient, much more accurate. So if you have a partner that you're working with, or you use any of these platforms, it's really simple. We've done it with a couple partners already. It's really just connecting the two and flipping a switch on the back end. It has to happen on both sides. I'm happy to answer any questions on that if you are all already in GA4. But just let the data start flowing, and that's going to work to your advantage and to your marketing team's advantage as well. One of the biggest changes to Google Analytics 4 is the data structure. So the way that Google is changing the way that they're going to be collecting and storing data within Google Analytics 4. What that really means is the new data in GA4, like the new conversion activities, the new events, is actually what they're being called. It's not compatible or translatable from what you are tracking in Universal Analytics. It cannot be merged. You can't migrate over your data from UA to GA4. So why this is important is if you get started today identifying the events and the actions and the reports that you want to be tracking, that you should start that now, so you have as much as possible. Like I had said in an earlier slide, we could have almost 2 years worth of data if we start now, or maybe a year and a half, or the data if we start now, since we're not going to be able to bring anything with us from UA. UA is good for us since it's still open and accessible for that data to kind of figure out what we were reporting before, what do we still want to report going forward. So we can use that as a reference guide, but there's a lot of new stuff that we can track, and it'll be fun to play around and see what you guys are going to want to start monitoring and tracking over time. On the reporting front, there's a lot of improvements of what we have going here. So some new inclusions are getting more accurate insights with machine learning. So there's behavioral modeling that's going to be available within Google Analytics 4 that can give you a really complete view of the customer journey, and using machine learning to fill in the gaps of what your patron behavior is, especially once cookies are no longer available. Remember, this is all happening in 2024, so about a year and a half, a little over a year and a half until those are all not options anymore. So it's important to get familiar with this platform and what the capabilities are before it's too late. Additionally, we can also improve our return on investment with more actionable reporting integration. So there's a new feature called custom channel grouping, which you can see the performance from different channels in aggregate. So for example, you can compare your brand search campaign to your non-brand campaign directly within GA4, not in another Search Ads 360 platform. It can all show up with what your other media is working for you within GA4. Something to note about the predictive analytics and the behavioral modeling, this does require 28 days of historical data. So if you started today, we need to wait about a month before we could use it, but also does have some minimums in terms of purchases or churned users to start to work. So you need to have enough data to scale it, to have it get do the predictive analysis. And even if you're not quite ready to make that switch to GA4 and using GA4 exclusively, we highly recommend running them side by side so you can start to collect that data so that predictive analytics can start to work better. I think this is probably one of my favorite new features with Google Analytics 4, and in the same vein for reporting. Let's say that you want to just find out, maybe you're not quite familiar yet with how to use the platform. You want to know how many site visitors you got this week compared to last week. You can just ask it in the search bar, kind of like how we use Google search today, being like, oh, where are the directions to State Theater, New Jersey? Like you can type this in and right into the Google Analytics search toolbar, and then you can see on the top there, it'll tell you exactly the answer. Another thing that it's showing, if you can see here in the screenshot, is it also can show some Google support documentation from Google's site to help you if you're having trouble completing the task or you want some additional information on like how to actually do something. So there's a lot of new things that you can click right into, and it can give you some reports. It can give you just the straight up answer. It can bring you to another support article. A lot of great stuff. And while this might seem like a small change, it actually is creating a lot of accessibility to more people on your team to use Google Analytics for, and like just being able to type a question right into the platform. And or those who are unfamiliar or out of practice, as you get the hang of things, this can help you get answers quickly. So to boil it down a little further, looking at what we consider the core changes to Google Analytics for, here's how we've, brought down to the top 3. There are a lot of changes, don't get me wrong, but the top 3 are Google Analytics is now going to be tracking events. This is not going to be the sessions or page views in which you were looking at things before. That was the default with how many sessions, how many page views were happening on your site organically. This means you can define what the events are that you want to track and that are most important to your business going forward. So it's not just a default sessions or page views for all users. There's so many different types of organizations and businesses and websites that use Google Analytics. So they wanted to customize this a little deeper for its users. 2, Google Analytics also supports full cross-device and cross-platform reporting. This allows you to track how your users are interacting with your app or your website, and it will provide a clear picture of your marketing impact across the board. And 3, we talked about it just a little bit before, but leveraging automation and AI to provide predictive analysis. Like rather than just reporting on things that have already occurred, you can use this for forecasting, finding more audiences, and more. I think that's going to be probably one of the biggest tools that I think people will be taking advantage of is the forecasting models. So overall, expect to see more integration with Google-owned media platforms, more accurate reporting and data for more accurate data for clearer reporting, and more advanced customization options across the board. This is just a small peek of the changes that have come with GA4. Like as we said, it's a brand new platform. It's not just a facelift. There's such a wide range of users that are using GA4, so their goal was to make this customizable, and it is highly customizable. So these are just a few of the changes that I think will be most important to the attendees on this call to get you started. But if you do have other questions or further reading, I'm going to send out some links for some deeper resources on GA4. All right, so we've talked about a couple of the changes that are coming. How do we use it? Is Google Analytics easy to use? Unfortunately, from my experience and my reading and talking with my peers who have been using it, apparently it's not that easy right out of the box, but that's okay. That's why we're here, and that's why Google is allowing us more time to get set up with GA4. So, I mean, boiling it down, if I could do one thing, what should it be today if you turned on GA4? What's the first thing you should do? Set up your events. We really recommend taking a look at, this is not going to be defaulted by any means. You have to go in and you have to set this up proactively. GA4 rollout has been actually a fantastic opportunity for organizations to review your entire tracking setup and dig into if what you have already is matching your strategic KPI plan, or if there are new things that you want to track that you weren't able to track before. Think of it as an opportunity for reporting spring cleaning, specifically looking at recommended events versus custom events. So recommended events are events that you can implement that have predefined names and parameters, such as page views, signups, things like that. Pretty standard things that I think most organizations or users would implement. But custom events are events that you define. But one thing to know if you are going to be creating custom events is custom events don't show up in the standard reports. You'd then have to create custom reporting to complement those new events that you have. So this is not going to be, one and done. I think across the board, this is highly customizable. So that's why it's important to work with your marketing team, work with a marketing agency to make sure these are set up properly. Another part about events, like they will have a ton of standard events that you can tap into to set up for your organization. But we really recommend tracking beyond just the standard page views. And a reason for that is if you track beyond the page view and you track other activities and actions on your site, this can provide a clear view of your entire customer journey. So for example, in Universal Analytics, you might see that somebody visited a certain part of your website, a certain web page, and that's about it. In GA4, you get more context, such as product dimensions, attributes of a purchase. not just, maybe if you have e-commerce set up, just they purchased for $50. There's a lot more detail into the products purchased, the site path, the journey, and how someone was engaging with your site. GA4 does have a limited number of automatically tracked events. So if you want to create your own events, that you'll need to have up additional reporting that are set up in your GA4 that I mentioned before. And number two, setting up reports. So we talked about the events. Now, what are those events going to fuel? It's going to fuel your report. So these 4 here are just 4 kind of standard reports that we recommend setting up for any user. Acquisition. So you might be familiar with that view from your Google Analytics or Universal Analytics already. So acquisition provides you information on where your traffic is originating and the methods by which users are arriving to your site, and or the marketing efforts used to drive to your site if you're using UTM parameters on links for your email campaigns or your advertising campaigns, for example. Engagement lets you measure the user engagement by the events and the conversion events and the web pages in which the user is visiting. So, not just that they're coming to the site, but how are they engaging and moving through your site deeper and deeper. Monetization enables you to see the revenue that you generate from items, ads, subscriptions on your website. And then retention is helping you understand how frequently and how long users engage with your site after their first visit. I think, having all 4 of these is going to be a good base level to get started with reporting, but we know that there's a lot more that could be important to you that you're tracking historically or new things that you want to, get into. So we really recommend playing around with reports now for the next couple of months before your season begins or your next fiscal begins. So you can, maybe generate a report, see what that looks like, adjust it, play with it. And then, you'll have a full year of reporting once this is set. And you're like, great, this is exactly what we want. You'll be prepared by the time that is ready to go. So I wanted to arm you all with, and no need to furiously write this down. We will send this out afterward, but I wanted to arm you all with some questions that you can bring to the table at your next marketing meeting, or if you have an agency that you work with, to bring to your next meeting with your agency that's helping you with your marketing. So asking them, how are they preparing for Google Analytics 4? How will they be using Google Analytics 4? Have they done any research on it yet? Especially these questions will differ a little bit if you're working with a third party versus an in-house marketing team, but I would challenge that group to start to consider the ways that they could use it if they have educated themselves yet. How can you elevate your reporting? There's been pretty great reporting available from Universal Analytics, but there's a lot, as you can hear, a lot of new stuff that's coming through that you'll be able to track. So what could we elevate the reporting? And also what new KPIs, what new events can we track that we weren't able to track before? And then what integrations will they or can they implement? We talked about the integrations with the Google-owned media platform. You can connect to many. I don't even know if there is a limit. I can follow up on that, but this is highly recommended if you are using any Google media buying platforms for your Google grant, for search, for, if you're doing display with either Google Display Network or DV360. These are all highly recommended to plug in to better power those campaigns, especially once the third-party cookie is deprecated in 2024. And, if you've poked around in GA4, some of you may have already done this, you'll see that things look really different. Some things are gone that were there before. But just to give you, the reason for that is because this is highly customizable. You can choose and design how you want your homepage to look when you log in. So these are just 5 sections that are, very similar to what was coming from UA, but would be applicable to GA4. And I'll kind of break this down for you. Your homepage is your homepage. That is what, it's a quick overview of your data, and you can customize what you want to see on your homepage when you log in. You can have a reporting section, which is all of the info you're used to seeing, but with more in-depth reports that you can click right into. There's an explore page that's customizing and setting up those reports that you want to build yourself. And then advertising, that's a section that will show you the path and the sources which people are converting and coming to you. That can be paid or earned media. And then configure, this is where you can set up your events and create goals within GA4. So that is it. I know that that was, about, I don't know, 20 minutes or so, but I just wanted to thank you all so much for your time today. I think we're going to do questions in a minute, but I'll do my very best to answer as many as I can from a high level. But as I said at the start of the meeting, if you have something really unique to your business or, maybe a troubleshooting technical issue, I may not be able to answer it here, but we can dig into it afterward, or I can connect you with some resources to get into afterward. So, Pam, if there are questions.
Yeah, actually, we have a question here.
Okay.
Data from UA to GA4. Oops, I lost the question. Let's open it up again.
Oh, I see it here. Yeah, cannot migrate it, but do we lose it? Yeah, so you cannot migrate the questions, the data. So we do encourage, so if there is any reports, historical reports, you have until July 1st, 2024 to access it. So download those reports. You can, pull them into PDFs. You can also pull them in CSVs and things like that if you want to pivot the data. But it's not, the data, how it's being stored and collected is different. So it doesn't translate to be migrated over, unfortunately. So it's super important to start GA4 now, start collecting at least the basics, and then start figuring out how you can recreate the tracking and the reporting from UA to GA4. And it is unfortunately not retroactive, so that's where that migration, it is definitely a downside to this migration, but you're not alone. Everyone, as of July 1st, 2024, will be in the same position as you're in. So this is an opportunity to at least get a little bit of a head start before the rest.
All right. That's great. Thank you, Samantha. We have another question. Will there be a need to bring in the pixel information for GA4, or will the current connection work?
Oh, I think this is meaning like the UA tag that's on your site. I believe that you might have to place a new GA4 tag on your site. So you'll have a UA tag that you currently have now. When you go in and you create your Google Analytics 4 account, it will, because it's going to be a whole new property. So don't quote me on this, but I'm 99% sure that you will need to place new pixels on your site for that.
Okay, great. And another question, is there another cookie-like option now that cookies is going? I'm not sure what that means, but hopefully you got it.
Let me digest this. Another cookie-like option and going away, I think, is probably what they meant. So yeah, and just a reminder, the cookies not gone yet, and they're only third-party cookies. So first-party cookies, so your site visitors, people in your database who have purchased with you, that's all owned first-party data, and that's considered a necessary cookie. I do have some resources. I think Tanisha sent it on Cookieless World. That's some info that we have sent out to the database. I think you sent, Tanisha. So I could get into some cookieless advertising changes and what that actually means. So Google is exploring, alternatives to the cookie right now. It used to be called Google Flock, and now it's called Google Topics. So there are alternatives coming, and that's going to be more contextual, broad targeting subjects available within the buying platforms. But that's also why it's really important to connect your Google Analytics 4 to whatever buying platform you're using for display. So then you can use that data from your website to help inform, who your patrons are, who your purchasers are, things like that.
Okay, great. And we do have a question in the Q&A. Will Tag Manager work with GA4?
Oh, yes, it will. Great question. Absolutely. Yes, that's a Google or a media platform. That's the Google owned product. Yes, that will 100% work in your Google Tag Manager. And I actually just integrated it for a partner the other day. It's super simple to connect the two.
Great. And another question, how, if at all, are UTMs affected in GA4?
They shouldn't be affected. If anything, you might be able to make them more advanced, I believe, within GA4. So that would be porting in through your advertising section in your dashboard, that's where your sources are of where things are coming. So it would be good to, once you set up GA4, and if you have any UTMs active, take a look and see how those are reporting in. And if anything is looking funky or adjustments that need to be made, then you can adjust those UTMs. But that should be the same going forward to GA4.
Great. And I have a question.
Sure.
I feel lost.
That's fair.
I feel like my organization has not done the work it needs to do in this area, and I'm wondering, how can a small organization can we hire a consultant for a short period of time to get us acclimated and on the right track?
Yeah, I do recommend, I mean, if your organization already has someone that's managed your Google Analytics, I mean, some people are really into it and they use GA to inform a lot of decisions. And some just have it just set up in the background and they kind of never look at it. If you are an organization that does use analytics, I'd recommend before spending any money for a consultant, just setting it up and seeing how poking around feels to you. But yes, there are consultants out there that you can hire for a contract basis just to get you onboarded and set up, and have a discovery call with your team to find out what's important to you for reporting and tracking and things like that. So you can do that. But there is a lot of great documentation out there just to get the basics started. The most important thing that I would say today is just get your account created, get it implemented, and just let the data start flowing in, because then you can organize the data as you go. But you can't retroactively get the data. So I would recommend ASAP just getting the account set up, and then you can, talk with an organization about any custom reporting or advanced setups that you want to implement. Like e-commerce is pretty complicated to set up if you want to track conversion activity on your site. So yeah, that's a fair question, Pam. And that's why we have time. Like the deadline has extended. So no need to rush necessarily tomorrow, but just getting it set up is the best thing you can do today.
Okay, great. I feel like I have my work cut out for me.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I will say a lot of our organizations are very small, and a lot of times that person that is wearing multiple hats. So I think it's going to be a
overwhelming.
Yes, and we do have another question here.
Oh, sure.
I've heard about enhanced measures like site search, video engagement, etc. Do you think these will be relevant tools for small to medium-sized organizations are too granular to be useful in a strategy?
That's a very good question. I would say, so with the third-party cookie going away and tracking, you may have already seen it for those of you that are doing paid media, especially with Facebook, because Facebook already, deployed their iOS 14 update with the cookie tracking. So anyone who's had a campaign from 2021 to 2022 has seen a significant drop in the correlated conversions. So with the loss of, the full view of conversion activity, I'm highly recommending looking at other KPIs like engagement. You could do specifically to video or site search. Those are two very different types, but it depends on what's important to your organization. Even if you're small, what are your goals? Do you want to improve your site traffic flow and having people click through? And if you have content on your site, like a blog or videos, is that important to you to get more eyeballs on that? And so it's really going to boil down to what your priorities are. But I actually don't think that those are too granular. I think that the other KPIs that you can be tracking can help give you a fuller view of your customer journey, but also identify other areas of success. If we're not able to only look at purchases, we should look at clicks, email signups, time spent on the site. I think that those are other indicators showing that your audiences are engaging with you and likely, hopefully purchasing as well.
Great.
Yeah,
Great.
good questions.
Some robust questions here. We have another one here. We do not have an e-commerce website. What if our transactions actually take place on a separate but linked platform from our website?
Yes, that's really common, especially with arts organizations that use third-party ticketing vendors that you have to click off to, like Ticketmaster, for example. Unfortunately, that is an offsite activity. So I think what you can configure are exit points in your site to know how, when people if they're clicking off to the buy tickets page, and that's kind of like a soft conversion. It's not occurring on site, it is occurring off site. I think working with that third-party ticketer on what kind of reporting or analytics they could place on those pages, but I know they're all different in terms of how you can hard code things in or not in. Whoever that is, if you do want to talk to me specifically about your your partner, I could probably think about if we have experience with that. But that's a good question. Yeah, it is unfortunately common that sometimes that is happening offsite, which you can't track that because there's a lot of other, traffic and activity that occurs on Ticketmaster, just using them for an example, that wouldn't be correlated necessarily coming from you. So I think that's where that gets a little muddy.
Yeah, there was a couple companion notes here.
Mm.
Will we be able to monitor link activity, and Patron Manager is the program that is being referenced?
Okay, link activity. Yeah, so within your Google Tag Manager, that's where you can configure button clicks and things like that. Like if you have a marketing team or work with an agency, we do that all the time. Like Eventbrite is very famously a difficult platform to track activity on. So what we'll do often is configure the button click off to Eventbrite and use that as a soft action. So what was the first part of that question, Pam? It was monitoring link activity.
Yeah, will we be able to monitor link activity? And again, Patron Manager is the program.
Yeah, so the link activity, and I think you can also track that within Universal Analytics already, but probably more advanced with GA4. That you can see it as an exit point, so like what was the exit point from the site, and that you see what the URL structure was. And then I believe you can see the clicks and the engagement on what they were exiting from. You should be able to.
Great. Yeah, a lot of great information.
Yeah, these are good questions.
Yes, we have some smart people here in New Jersey.
Yeah.
All right, I'm looking to see, I'm not seeing anything else here in the Q&A. Let me just double check the chat. I'm not seeing anything.
Sure, and these questions that were asked, Vince, if you're able to grab them, I can also type up the answers to them since everyone's like listening to me talk right now. So I could type those up and we can share them out when this is sent to as a follow-up.
Very, very good.
Yeah.
All right. Now, does anybody else, one last time, any additional questions? I feel like I've gotten quite a bit of an education here this morning. So thank you so much, Samantha.
Absolutely.
Now I have to do my homework.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, the bottom line is start today. Just get the account set up, get it placed on your site, and then start having the conversations with your partners, your teams on, what they're not going to want you to do. These small organizations that have one-man shows or one-woman shows that wear a lot of hats, they're not going to want you to come to them on June 30th, 2024 and be like, oh my God, can you get GA4 set up? So I would recommend helping them out or helping yourselves out if that's you on this meeting to get started today and get ahead of the game to start the data collecting. Oh, one more question?
Yes, we have one more question.
All right.
I know Testatura is also working on their GA4 implementation for their e-commerce platform. Do you know if GA4 will connect front end and back end sites that will have both have an implementation to GA4?
Actually, I don't know that from a technical side, but I'll take that to my director of media activation, who is a whiz in this. And we're very close to Testatura, so I can also talk to my friends over there too. So I'll take that as a follow-up, especially if there are a lot of Testatura users on this meeting today. That's a really good question. I'm going to assume they're going to find a way to make these connections, or we're going to have some sort of complementary reporting that will come out of that.
All right, wonderful. All right, last call. Anybody else have a question? All right, I'm not seeing anything. I would like to thank you again, Samantha, for a fabulous presentation, really thought-provoking and informational, and just really appreciate you joining us so early this morning from San Francisco. Hopefully you'll be able to get some extra time this afternoon to relax.
Yeah, I'll tell everyone I got to log off early because I joined you guys. Well, nice to meet all of you. Here's my contact information. I think someone will share it out too, but just wanted to leave on the screen for a minute if anybody wants to talk.
Right, great, thank you. I'd like to turn the presentation now over to ArtPride and Tanisha Ford, who is going to walk us through some updates that are going on with ArtPride.
Good morning. Thank you again, Samantha.
Yeah.
Big woot woot. My name is Tanisha Ford. I am an African-American woman of indiscriminate age with natural black curly hair, gold framed glasses. I am wearing a black shirt and a gray cardigan. I respond to any pronouns so long as it's done respectfully. And I am coming to you today from my home in Willingboro, New Jersey, the ancestral home of the Lenni Lenape people. I wanted to let you guys know a little bit about our seasonal campaigns. I want to start with that. Our Fall Guide campaign ended November 7th, and it was extremely successful. We reached over nearly 1.5 million people with our organic and paid ads, posts, and featured stories, which include articles, podcasts, and our video packages. And of those products that we put out, we've had nearly 2 million impressions. Now, this content focused on you. It focused on our Jersey Arts members, our people who come here to get this wonderful resources, and our focus on promoting and producing wonderful opportunities for you all was extremely successful. Our holiday guide will launch tomorrow, and we are extremely excited. It will run through January 3rd, and we're focusing on holiday themed experiences. That's Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, winter solstice, whatever holiday theme experience that you are producing this season, please share them with us at ArtPride New Jersey /seasonal-campaigns. And we will, our wonderful content manager, C. Stroud, will consider them for inclusion in our calendar. If I can have the next slide, Sam. Samantha just shared with us some amazing information about analytics. And as you can see here on this slide, this content is what our holiday campaign will look like. Again, if you've been to our calendar, you've seen the layout of our calendar, of our information that we've highlighted your work before, but we're leaning into the fact that holiday tradition starts with the arts, and we are also returning to gift certificate kind of proclamations. If you're providing gift certificates or gift cards for your organizations, please let us know. That's also can be found on our seasonal campaign page, and we will share that out broadly to the world. The holiday tradition starts with the arts starts November 10th. So that starts tomorrow, and it'll run through, I believe the date is January 3rd, but I am not going to ask you to take me to court on that right this moment. Next slide. With all the wonderful information that Samantha just provided for us, analytics and how they can support you and your organization. And we all know that cookies are leaving our lives. The Audience Insight Manager is a great tool to help you gain better insight into who your audiences are and where your audiences are going beyond you. We are opening registration to participate in the AIM Arts Insights Manager program, and that starts November 14th. In the upcoming weeks, you will receive emails from us outlining how you can use AIM, how you can get tutelage, and how you can register for the AIM program. Make sure that you are subscribed to our mailing list so that you can be up to date with all the opportunities and resources that ArtPride New Jersey has to offer you. And with that, I just want to again reiterate how grateful we are to you, Samantha, for this wonderful information that you shared. There will be a follow-up email, a recap, and it will be the slides from this webinar, as well as the video from this webinar. In addition, she'll have the questions that you asked will be also listed. So it'll be a nice, healthy recap, and make sure that you're subscribed so that you don't miss out on anything. And Pamela, thank you so much for your wonderful facilitation of today's meeting. The next JAM webinar is January 12th. Please follow the JAM Facebook page and let us know what you're interested in learning about. There's currently a poll on the page that will help us focus our offerings to make the membership as fulfilling for you as possible. And with that, I say thank you again for coming up this early in this morning, and I look forward to engaging with you soon. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.